for I followed Chief Brown over here to Leesburg. And so there, I worked at Parkview High School for 3.5 years of that as a school resource officer. So very familiar with the school settings and juveniles and students. And so that's kind of like one of my specialties there is dealing with our adolescents and our juveniles. So if you guys ever need anything, feel free to stop by and just say hi or chat. If you got questions, I'm always available. Oh. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a parent coffee. So there might be a lot of first-time parents in here of sixth graders, and that's your oldest child. So if that's the case, we have these parent coffees every couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. It's our way of trying to reach out to our community, make sure you guys can come see us and come listen to what we have to say, and we also bring in speakers. And so there's going to be various times throughout the year that we have parent coffees. So it's called a parent coffee. Usually we only have coffee, but today we have some leftover donuts and pastries, so enjoy them, but please don't get used to them, because it's just a parent coffee is what we call it. So, but thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate you coming and being a part of this this morning. What are middle schoolers most concerned with? So there's a lot of concerns. So again, if you're a parent of a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader, I was the 8th grade counselor last year. There were concerns even for the kind of the cool 8th graders who knew what they were doing and knew the school well. The last week of school, I had an 8th grader come up to me because they forgot their locker combination. They're kind of worried about it. So there's all sorts of worries about what it is in middle school, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, but especially for our little 6th graders who are just starting off. There's a lot of things going on, but there's a lot of support here. So obviously friends, how they look, the self-image, school, activities. There's so many things outside of school I'm sure they're worried about, but here in school there's a lot of things to consider. And I have a quick video I wanted to show you that will kind of highlight maybe a little bit of what they're thinking about.
So, how was the first day of school? It was fun, I guess. I don't know. Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head? Did you guys pick up on that? Sure did. Something's wrong. We're going to find out what's happening, but we'll need support. Signal the husband.
Uh-oh, she's looking at us. What did she say? What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening. We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
Signal him again.
So, Riley, how was school?
You gotta be kidding me.
For this, we gave up that Brazilian helicopter pilot?
School was great, all right?
What was that? I thought you said we were gonna act casual.
Riley, is everything okay?
Sir, she just rolled her eyes at us. All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down. No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I'll show the attitude.
No, Reef.
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass. Take it to DEFCON 2. DEFCON 2.
I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Bob?
Yeah? Well,
Prepare the foot. Keys to safety position. Ready to launch on your command, sir.
just shut up!
Fire!
That's it. Go to your room.
The foot is down. The foot is down.
Good job, gentlemen. That could have been a disaster.
Well, that was a disaster.
Come, fly with me.
So a little glimpse into maybe what's going on inside our middle schoolers' heads, and also what it's like to be a parent of a middle schooler and how difficult it is to kind of navigate all the issues they're going through. They can't communicate maybe as well as we would like them to, and they would like to. And then as parents, we're trying to be as patient and supportive as possible, but sometimes they don't really tell us the problem or the issue going on. So that's why I really think it's great to have such a good supportive school environment here. Obviously, all our teachers are here to support your children and educate them and teach them their specific subject, but they're here to help them and listen to them as well. There's a counselor assigned to each grade. We have Ms. Harper in the back, who we'll talk in a minute, and she is our lead counselor and in charge of students who have IEPs. We have, and obviously you saw the SRO, we have a school social worker, school psychologist, so there's a lot of people here to support your child in any way they might need it. So kind of should make things as smooth as possible here at school. So we are a team. In middle school, the students' lockers in those core classes are in each house. So House C is 6th grade, House B is 7th grade, and then House A is 8th grade. It kind of makes the school smaller. I've definitely found that for my 6th graders this year. They like the fact that they have like a home base, if you will. So they're in House C. Again, most of their core teachers are right there. They got to go out for their elective and maybe for PE. But for the most part, they know kind of where they are with homeroom and know where everything is. And it makes it a little bit more of a kind of a smaller feel, which is great for them, because if they think of how big the school is and how many kids are in here, they might kind of get overwhelmed. And so the dean, the counselor, and the secretary, we work together to keep the house in order. So the dean is in charge of, Mr. Wooders, the 6th grade dean, he likes to say he's in charge of discipline, but it's not his main job. But of course, he's kind of like the principal, if you will, of the house. So the dean is the principal of the house, basically. But they work with teachers on instruction and curriculum as well. The counselors, as you would imagine, we're there to support your children in any way possible. We work with them one-on-one, small groups. I have a goal this year of meeting with every one of my kids during lunch. So I've done a couple lunch bunches, if you will, already, and we'll be doing that throughout the year. So we're just trying to get to know your children as they navigate their way through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Obviously, we can help them academically, bullying prevention, career exploration, lots of things that the counselors do. And the secretaries, they handle attendance, bus passes, all those kind of duties, and they support the house in a lot of different ways. So teaming. So we have ITs, interdisciplinary teams. So 6th grade, there's 3 teams, 7th grade, there's 3 teams, and 8th grade as well. So each kid is assigned, each student is assigned a team. They don't necessarily know what team they're on. It's not necessarily like, oh, I'm on Team Lightning versus Team Thunder. It's more like for us as educators, we like to put them on teams so we can, as it says there, have each of their core teachers. So typically the English, science, and history, math as well as much as we can, to try to have them be the same teachers for that one student. So when they get together and talk about how things are going with their students, if they bring up one student's name, the other teachers for the most part will have that student and can kind of put their heads together. Obviously, if a student is off team, as we call it, where they don't have one particular team that they're assigned to, because sometimes they have to get split up because we have like a couple teachers who teach science in 7th and 8th grade, or sorry, 6th and 7th grade, at least in my grade. It makes it kind of tougher for them to have true teams. They'll still meet and talk about their students, and the counselors can help orchestrate that. But being on teams really helps us really support that student if there's any kind of an issue that arises. And then there's, at the bottom, CLTs, so collaborative learning teams. So this is where the subject area teachers will get together and really plan and make sure their lessons are similar and they're teaching the same curriculum relatively the same way. And if they need to kind of tweak things during the year, they can kind of put their heads together. So we feel like this helps with the planning throughout the year. What is my students' day like? So every day starts with homeroom. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they start off with homeroom for 20 minutes. That can take on a few different kind of things. Usually there's a little bit of reading time in there for them, but also it's kind of a way for them to start their day, get organized, get ready for the school day. Sometimes you might see your students are able to go see teachers and get a little bit of extra help before the school day starts. Then there's 4 88-minute classes per day. The exceptions are 6th graders, music and resource for 45 minutes each, and 7th graders have music or art and resource for 45 minutes each. 6th graders have English every day, no matter what. They always have English every day. All of the classes are every other day, except for some students in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade might need math every day, depending on kind of what they're struggling with or what they need extra support in. And then there's 30-minute lunch, and then advisory. Advisory is something that happens every Wednesday. In between first and second block, and we usually kind of go over whatever lesson we feel like kind of covering that day. There's an advisory committee of teachers who kind of plan out the year, and they might talk about bullying or organization, study skills, kind of a good way to take the pulse of the school and teach them some things that they don't necessarily get to learn during the school day in the regular subjects. So parent-teacher conferences, so how can this happen? So if you ever have any kind of a question about what's going on with your child's teacher or or class, and you want to ask the teacher a question, we always encourage you to reach out. So please reach out directly to that teacher. That's usually the first step. Give them a call or send them an email. Email's probably a little bit easier because they're in the classroom so much during the day. But if you'd like to call, you could even email and say, let's schedule a time to talk on the phone. That's usually the first step, is going through that teacher. So this may be requested though by a teacher, parent, teacher, dean, counselor, case manager, or student. So if your child has an IEP, the case manager may say, hey, we've seen some things, we want to call a meeting. The counselor may say, I see something with your child, I wanted to give you a call, maybe let's set up a meeting with 1 or 2 or more teachers. Or again, you as a parent, you can certainly set up a meeting if you like. Again, we always encourage you to contact the teacher. I know me for 6th grade, and I think Ms. Blevins and Ms. Cole for 7th and 8th grade, as counselors, we always like to be included in those. So if you're ever going to be emailing a teacher, I think copying the counselor is a great idea just to keep us in the loop, so that we can kind of keep our eye on what's going on. And then if you ever need anything from us, of course, address us directly in that email, or give us a call as well. So who usually will take for teachers, parents, counselors, deans, sometimes the students. I find it's good to have the student there. It's not easy for them to be there sometimes because all these people, adults, are staring right at them. But it's really good to hear from them and have them see what the teachers are willing to do for them and what they need to do as a student to make that meeting go as well as possible. But I do realize sometimes the students don't necessarily need to be there. What a good time to communicate about academic success, concerns, work habits. It's a good opportunity to ask questions, provide essential feedback about your child. And then, of course, everybody should be positive. We're all going to be positive, even though there might be an issue with the student maybe struggling in certain ways, or the teacher has things that we want to kind of bring up about the teacher, or things aren't going well in the classroom. These things happen, but if we can stay positive, like everybody has the same goal, supporting the child and make sure they have the best situation possible, these meetings can go very well. So that's kind of typically how we run parent-teacher conferences. And parent basics, academic support. This is Ms. Blevins. She's a 7th grade counselor.
Hello, yes, I see a few 7th grade parents here, so we'll try not to. So right now, the beginning of the year is an awesome time to start setting the expectations and routines that your children need to be successful in a middle school setting. It's a lot different from elementary school. There's a lot of more independent work that happens at home, and we try to set them up here for success, but we need your help to help reinforce the lessons that they're learning at school, at home. So what that might look like is coming home every day and making a routine for them, checking their agenda, asking if they have homework. If they tell you no, they're lying. Go into parent view and look at the classes and see if there's any M's for missing, or if it's blank, ask them if they turn it in. If they say yes, then maybe you can follow up in a few days with an email to the teacher to let them know, like, hey, just check to make sure that it was turned in, So work with them to stay on top of their academic responsibilities, because they're going to learn good habits now from you guys reinforcing what we're teaching them here. So this is a good way to start off the beginning of the year on a good foot and set the expectations now, so that you're not trying to backtrack later and catch up. It's harder then. But right, expect success. If you're having trouble with the class, communicate directly with the teachers, but like Jude said, feel free to copy us on this email also, because we would love to stay in the loop and kind of check in, like, hey, are you going to resource to find these teachers and ask the questions that you need, so we can help support them here at school also. And support the teachers too. But yeah, feel free to call for backup. We are here to help. We would love to talk to your student about anything that they're going through. We would love to talk to you about anything that we can help support you guys do at home. And also follow what we have on social media. We like to announce things and have like good, positive, silly things on our Harper Park website and the Twitter account. We also have a UHT account, Ms. Harper will talk about later. So anything with mental health is usually the parent basics, social, emotional. Yeah, this is just a reminder that they're little kids in bigger kids' bodies, and they're growing a lot in these years. They're going through a lot of changes, so you can expect some highs and lows. And it's important to do a lot of listening right now. I think a lot of kids at this age love to be heard, even if they're not making a lot of sense and you're not understanding, you can't like wrap your head around, but I think it's important that they hear heard, especially from their go-to people, which is you guys. Yeah, get to know their friends and their friends' parents so you guys can be informed and know that they're going to be safe. Limiting technology is not a bad thing. I know we give them Chromebooks, but it's important that you guys are able to monitor that at home. We do our best here at school. I'll talk to you about some programs that we use to help facilitate that as well. It's okay to be the uncool parent sometimes. It's actually necessary. So we encourage you guys to feel comfortable saying no.
middle school years are tricky for parents because things have been going along pretty smoothly for the past 11 years in most people's cases. And then suddenly what they've been doing that works really well often stops working. So parents can find that really frustrating. And one of the things that they need to understand is that the middle school years are what I call the middle school construction project. So kids are working on developing 3 things that they need to become an adult. They need an adult body, an adult brain, and an adult identity. And that sort of creates the perfect storm for a lot of change to be happening at once. And the best advice I have for parents during this time is to change their role from being a manager, sometimes they're micromanagers, to becoming an assistant manager. And that means that they're really letting kids take more risks and become more independent. And they're operating more as a sounding board instead of someone who is dictating how everything should be done all the time. It seems to work much better for middle schoolers. This is a tough change to make, and I've been there myself. I have a daughter who's in high school and a son who's in middle school, so I know that it's a really difficult change. It helps if you remove yourself and think about the best manager you ever had and some of the things that they did for you. And usually what I hear parents say is that they gave me freedom to make my own choices, they held me accountable, they communicated clearly. Just go through this exercise of thinking about the best manager you ever had and what that was like. And then you've written your own job description while your kid is in middle school. So you can think about implementing some of those things for your own child. And that's a good way to kind of give yourself a roadmap for the next few years. You probably have some younger kids in the house who are looking at you saying, I want that too, I want the same freedom. But I think it's fair to say to your kids, that middle school is a delineator. When you reach a certain age and a certain grade, you begin to change the way that things are done. So if you can look at it that way as sort of a marking point in the sand where you're going to make some changes, it helps.
So she had some good points about being an assistant manager in this time because we want the children to be able to have the autonomy to make their decisions for themselves, but we want to be able to encourage them to make the right decisions or the best decisions for themselves. So it's important to do a lot of listening and really hearing what they're going through and kind of trying to relate and guide them with giving them options and choices too. So they're very quickly moving from young playful kids to little baby adults that have cell phones and lots of new responsibilities, and it's all very overwhelming and scary. And sometimes they just lose sight of the way they need to be moving. So it's important that we keep tabs on how things are progressing and try to encourage them to make the better decisions themselves.
When kids go to middle school, everything changes. Here's what some parents have found.
You know, he used to need information from me. And he used to hang on my every word, and now he knows everything.
Very smart, very teenager, and this could be any culture, is that they pass from the stage that they just say yes to you every time you give them order to the stage that they want to know why. And they want to have an opinion about it.
As a result, parents have to learn to do some things differently.
Well, he's moody. He's moody. So you know what? I have to be way more in tune with where he is at so that I can respond appropriately to where he is and he will hear me. So I think you have to take a deep breath a lot of times, because I think there's often that testing and they're looking for you to quickly react and respond, and you don't necessarily want to do that. I think you need.
You teach by asking your teens what they think.
You know, like if a friend is over and they do something that I think is totally rude, I might say, how did you feel about how XYZ did that or handled that? Would you handle that the same way? Try to get from them how they feel about it, and hopefully they feel the same way I do. And if they don't, I say, okay guys, sorry, teachable moment. Let's talk about what I think is the right thing to do. I hope you understand.
Want to hear from experts as well as fellow parents? Parenting Through Middle School, a web-based multimedia toolkit, offers videos, expert-written articles, and more about your changing child, how parenting changes, and supporting your child in school. Parenting Through Middle School. Learn more at parentingteensinfo.com.
Yeah, so we're going to students get a Chromebook, that opens up the gates to a lot of different concerns based on what they're exploring on the websites, what kind of social media they have access to, who they're talking to on the internet, whether it's kids here at school or if it's somebody like way far away that you don't know who they are or what they're sending to your kids. So just kind of be on top of what kind of apps your child uses. Like, do you know about Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, Insta, Spam, Fortnite, are all things that are current in today's world that the kids have access to because of social media and internet access and Chromebooks and phones and whatnot. They have a lot to manage, which is a different world that we all grew up in. So, even me, I swear, I didn't have a cell phone when I was in 6th grade. So, yeah, so definitely, if you are able, link all your devices to monitor texts and activities. I'm sure if you have trouble doing that, there's somebody that can help you. I personally don't know how to do that, but there's tons of resources that we can lean on to try and figure that out. So be aware, there's a lot of cyberbullying that happens online. It ramps up in middle school because kids are just mean, and it's so sad. But if you do need support with cyberbullying, feel free to reach out, especially if it's involving students at our school that it affects during the school day. That would be relevant also. Yeah, so each student is issued a Chromebook. They are monitored at all times, which means that anything your student types into the Chromebook, even if it's at home and not connected to LCPS internet, will get like screened almost, and it's through this app called Gabble. So if they type in the word suicide or I want to kill myself or anything inappropriate or concerning, it's going to get flagged. And it's going to get flagged through Gabble, and Gabble is going to send an email to one of us who is responsible for the student, and we're required to respond and investigate, like what happened, why were you searching this. Sometimes it's something for a project at school, so it's nothing, but we need to investigate regardless because we are very concerned about anything that they're typing that would be inappropriate, and we want to protect them. So.
And then do you tell us?
Yes. Yes.
In every case.
As long as, well, there might be some small cases that where it's like somebody shared a document with me and it had like the word gun in it because we were working with U.S. history. Most of the time we do contact you, especially if it's something like where they are in danger of hurting themselves or being hurt. But if it's something from like a project or something that's like absolutely 100% totally innocent, then it was just a malfunction on Gabble's part, basically, because they just have certain words that trigger emails. Right. But if we look at the document, it's like, they were running a report, so, and it makes sense, we'll still probably talk to them. If we have concerns, obviously we're going to email you guys. So we were required to respond. I did several last year as a 6th grade counselor. It happens. And we have informed our kids about Gabble also, so hopefully this will deter them from making poor choices or, seeking information from the internet, which isn't always the best way to go. Yeah, well, they play Fortnite. Gabble doesn't report Fortnite to us, unfortunately. If they're just off task, they're not going to tell us. If they're doing something interesting. Right, so yeah, that's something that'll come up. Be like, are you using your Chromebook appropriately? Yeah. So if they're using the Chromebook inappropriately, we will talk to them about that also. So Ms. Cole is the 8th grade counselor, and she will go ahead and start with the bullying topics.
Are there any 8th grade parents here?
Usually we have a few, and we do have new students in every grade level, so we usually do get some folks other than the 6th grade parents, so welcome. Anyway, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about bullying and then some of the programs that we're doing here. We hear the word bullying a lot, and I'm sure you hear the word bullying a lot. And so we have to really define bullying because sometimes bullying is not used appropriately, and it needs to be used appropriately so we can respond appropriately. So this is a really good way to look at, is it truly bullying or is it really just some form of mistreatment? And if somebody says something to somebody else and it's not intentional, but it does hurt somebody, like their feelings or whatever, and they just do it once, then that's kind of rude. Okay. If somebody does something to hurt somebody and it's intentional, but they just do it once, that's mean, and there can even be consequences for some kind of mean act that somebody does to somebody else. But the definition of bullying is it needs to be something that's hurtful, it has to be an imbalance of power, and it has to be repeated, like somebody's really picking on somebody over and over. And that's when it becomes true bullying. And so we want to make that distinction because a lot of times kids will say automatically, I'm getting bullied or somebody's bullying me, and it's really nice to be able to sort that out so we can act accordingly. So there's a lot on this slide. We do have a lot of bullying prevention programs that we do at Harper Park. Again, just to reiterate about bullying, it's kind of an imbalance of power. Somebody wants to get more strength and injure somebody else in some way. Other than that, it's kind of can be considered like a mistreatment. So we do a lot of anti-bullying efforts, and each of us counselors in our grade levels, we do some sort of bullying prevention program each year. We do that in October. So in 6th grade, your kids will get the bullying basics, what it is, how to stop it. They'll learn about the difference between bullying and mistreatment. They're going to see a presentation. It's called Same Sky. We've been doing this every year for quite a long time on September 18th. And this presentation has to do with students with mental and physical disability. They come and they do an assembly of just what it's like for some of these students that suffer and some of the bullying and things that have come their way. And that helps to create some empathy in our students and helps them understand that some people are suffering. In 7th grade, we do a piece on sexual harassment. And I'll come back to that assembly in a second. And in 8th grade, we do a big piece on cyber bullying, online bullying. And I'm hoping this year to include our officer too, Officer Carter. He's going to have some things, good things about internet safety. We're going to try to do some things together. So you'll see there it says the Campbell Assembly. 7th and 8th graders will get this assembly. And we've been using this presentation. They're different every year from this Campbell program. And this year the theme is called Go Viral. Every year they touch on bullying, and this year they're really touching on bullying, but the cyberbullying and the internet and how things are affected. And I've seen the preview, it's excellent. It's going to be really, really good for our kids, and it'll be a nice follow-up to each one of these presentations that they get in 7th and 8th grade. And then in 6th grade they have the Same Sky. So each of our grade levels have some sort of follow-up. The students also receive advisory every week. Advisory is a way to make connections with kids. We do a lot with anti-bullying during this advisory time, especially in the month of October. They'll have lessons every single month. We also call it Wellness Wednesdays when we're focusing on mental and emotional health issues during that advisory time. So there's going to be a lot of variety of things that the kids will get this year and related to ways to help them be better connected and learn the things they need to do to be successful. We also do staff development, so we'll give information to our staff on different things that they need to look for in terms of bullying and how to prevent that in the classroom. We also have an online reporting piece that students can report bullying to us, and then we get it so they don't have to come up and tell us. Sometimes they can just do it. You can do it together online if they want to let us know, and then we get to them and we address it, and we involve whoever needs to be involved to get that corrected. This year we have a new push. It's called Sources of Strength. This will be for 7th and 8th grade, mostly 8th graders. It's going to be a way to empower students in 8 areas of strength. And some of the areas, just to give you an idea, one would be mental health, one would be generosity, spirituality, mentoring, and parent support. And so there's like 8 of these sources of strength that if you develop these in students, if the students have like 5 of these strengths, they're going to do so much better. So we are going to be implementing that program this year. This shows the matrix of our PBIS program. Our motto is be there, be ready, and be kind. And if you can see, I'm not going to go through all this, but it's just our matrix of what we expect the students to be doing in these certain areas: the cafeteria, the hallways, the restroom, the buses, and the classroom. And so the students will learn that these are the things that are expected. And when students follow these particular expectations and they're noticed, they can receive what's called I-tickets. And they're little tickets, and it says, thank you for being there, being ready, or being kind, and they can use those tickets for certain things like we have snacks or get to the line in front of the line at lunch and some of those other things. So when they're doing a good job and following PBIS, we do reward them and we thank them. And the kids here have really done a good job. I mean, my 8th grade, the kids are good. A big piece that counselors do are college and career readiness. We also do things in every grade level in this area. So we just go through some of the things that the students will be doing this year and then through the year. So in 6th grade, your students will start to be setting like a goal, and it'll be a goal for a future goal. What do I want? What are some of my possibilities? And we use a program called Naviance. The students will all learn how to use that program, the 6th graders this year. And then they'll be using this every year to do some piece of career and college exploration. So 6th grade mainly focusing on that goal setting. Then in 7th grade, last year, there was a big initiative for the counselors to work in the FACS room. All the students in 7th grade receive FACS, that's Family and Consumer Science. So we work together and we do like a 3-part program where the students actually look at they do an interest inventory and they match that to certain careers and they explore that in big detail. And then we do a 6-year academic plan of study. It starts in 7th grade. And how that works is last year I did it during course selection, and that's usually a good time to do it. The students look at the classes that we take in 8th grade, and then we look all the way through high school, especially at math progression and language progression, because with the language you need 3 years of one language or 2 years of 2 different languages for the advanced diploma. So most of the students start language in middle school. And so we really look and make sure that the students are on track for where they want to be. And that will be housed also in somewhere in, I think, Phoenix this year. Last year we still had to do them on paper, but this year it'll be online. So, okay, so 8th grade. And so this will be a couple years for your kiddos. But we actually do a college search via Naviance. And we select specific parameters that they might be of interest to them, like how big of a school, where do you want to be, do you want to be rural, urban. And we put all these things in there, and that gives them a list of colleges to kind of explore. It's a really good program. And all these things you can do at home through Naviance with your students. Even though we do it here, you can go home. They can at home. You can look at everything that they've done, and you can redo some of this stuff and keep exploring and exploring. So it's a wonderful program. In 8th grade, we also visit a college. This year, we're going to be visiting GMU. We've been doing that the last few years. We're going to do it in 2 days in March 17th and March 19th. And then our 8th graders meet with high school counselors when we do course selection and again prepare for 9th grade. So that's what we're going to be doing for career and college readiness. And that's my part is over. So I'm going to pass that on for the final stretch.
We're almost done. You guys are doing a great job. I'm Ashley Harper. As Jean said earlier, I'm the lead counselor, but I'm also the counselor for every student in the building that has an IEP. And so they're in every grade level. I have about 170 of them right now. Just a little background, this is my 18th year as a middle school counselor. I love middle school. I'm one of the crazy people. But I have a 6th grader, an 8th grader, and a 9th grader at home. So I'm literally like right where you are. So I can feel your pain, but I can also help encourage you and hopefully give you some ideas and support as you go through this time. Unified Mental Health Team, A couple of years ago, Loudoun County Public Schools really started to pay attention to the mental health needs of our students. And they started in the high school and it trickled down in the middle school. And this year, we have a full-time social worker and psychologist. They added an extra counselor a couple years ago, so that's why we have 4. Typically this school would have had just 3. And we work together with our nurse, our SRO, our admin, outside entities. We have substance abuse people that come in and work with us. And we meet as a team monthly to talk about the needs of our school and what are some school-wide initiatives we can do. We can try to do more prevention rather than reacting to crises. And we have a really strong team at this school. And we actually have our first meeting coming up next month. But we try to be transparent with parents. We post a lot on our Twitter, our UMHT Twitter, about things that we're doing and ways we support your kids. And we really try to promote it within the school too. When this meeting is over, if you have time, I'll take you around the corner and I'll take you to what we call our Oasis. It's our relaxation room for kids, for staff, whoever needs it. And kids can get mental health support there, or they can just come and relax. We have art therapy, kinetic sand, quiet music, dim lights. So that's another really cool feature about Harper Park. It's the only middle school in Loudoun County that has that room. So I'd love to show you if you have time to walk over there with us. We're going to talk a lot more about the Unified Mental Health Team. We're going to have all our team members here, those that don't work in the building but come and support us on the 27th. That'll be our next parent coffee. So if you're interested in that, there's a ton of services and support that we can offer your kids that you may not even have a clue about. So we would love to share that with you so you're all aware. Yeah.
Just back to the Oasis thing, when would they do that?
They do it during resource. Lots of kids come during lunch. Some kids who suffer from anxiety or some bouts of depression or something may come even during a class. We all have an online icon that they can poke and say, I need to come see you. And typically we leave it up to the teacher. You know, is it an okay time? If it's not a great time for someone to leave, the teacher will say, oh, wait 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or finish your test, then you can go. Or kids may come and take their test down there because it's just a more calming environment. So there's a wide variety of times that they might come. And our Twitter and our Instagram is the UMHT_HPMS. Again, we have students follow us too on those because we try to just promote a lot of positivity and remind them of the supports that they have here at Harper Park. We don't follow them back because that would get messy, but we do let them follow us. And then again, our contact info, everyone in Loudoun County is your first name dot last name at lcps.org. So that's an easy way to remember your email addresses. We don't have direct lines, unfortunately, so you'd have to call the main office to reach any of us and just ask for us. And then, as I said, the kids can all request to see their mental health team by clicking on the icon on LCPS Go, and it sends a message directly to us. And that's a really cool feature. The kids, they get less instructional time interrupted because they don't have to come down to our office to say, hey, can I see you? They can just do it at their desk. And then Miss Melody Negron is our parent liaison. Just wanted to show her face. She is, we share her with Heritage. She's a very busy lady. She connects families with all sorts of resources. She does parent workshops. She really is an amazing resource for all of our parents and our staff. So she's available here Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yes, by calling the main number here or Heritage. She'll talk to our parents even when she's at Heritage. So. And she speaks Spanish. And then these are just some upcoming dates. We've mentioned some of them already. Field trips, parent coffees, some of the presentations. We're doing a really cool Black History Month presentation this year that we haven't had here before. So we're excited about that. We post all these on our school website as well if you're ever curious about what's coming up for your kids. And again, please just communicate. We're here to help you with anything. There's nothing that between us we probably haven't helped someone through, so we're willing and we're able. So now, if anyone has questions, we have time.
I did want to say something. I forgot to introduce my intern. I have an intern, Ms. Cassette. So she's going to be with me in 6th grade for the first half of this year, so the first semester, every day until noon. So she's already got to know some students, so just keep that in mind, and she's a great resource for us and kind of learn the ropes, so we're glad to have her. And also, I'm sure a lot of of you guys know Mr. Woodard, the dean for 6th grade, but we figured there's a lot of 6th grade parents here, so I wanted to make sure he stopped by. Thank you for stopping by, Mr. Woodard.
I was here earlier and had a meeting. Good morning, everyone. 6th grade parents, especially 6th grade dean. So we will be spending a lot of time together. I plan to have your child for the next 3 years. So thank you all for coming out. I'll be here if you have any questions for me.
Will this presentation be It'll be posted on our YouTube probably by the end of the day today. And we always post the PowerPoints on our school counseling website. And we also live stream it, so this has been live streaming on Twitter. So if you ever can't make it, just follow our Twitter account, the Harbor Park one, and you can watch it from your desk at work or at home or whenever you're on your phone at the grocery store.
Any questions?
So, why does Biden County Public Schools do the big push in college? Because in middle school especially, I'm the parent of 2 graduated already, but not every kid is going to be going to college. So why aren't they given other alternatives? And I feel it's a disservice to the kids who won't go.
They actually are given, at least at the middle school level. We talk a lot about the academies, which would be the MATA programs. There's like 30 different programs that are kids can graduate high school with their certifications in a variety of fields. So we talk about that. We don't push necessarily like military or anything. We don't bring recruiters in at this level, but we definitely talk about other options after high school. After high school, not necessarily having to go to college. We talk about colleges such as Nova as being a great option to start to figure out what you might want to do until you decide if you want to go to a four-year school. So we do talk about that. I can't answer for what they do at the high school. I just know what we do in the middle school. And it's really, we do a lot more career exploration, starting in that 6th grade, just discovering the thousands of career and then helping them figure out, well, how do I get there? And some of them, it's very clear, you don't have to go to a four-year school for that. So it's really exploration at the middle school level.
What was the MATA or something?
Monroe.
Monroe
Yeah.
is Technical Academy. Used to be called Monroe Technology Center.
Can we do a discussion on that at some point?
We can, yeah, we can bring them in. I'll see if they actually came spring last year, because that's also where the Academy of Engineering and Technology and the Academy of Science is housed. It is an amazing facility, I wish they would open it up for parents to go and just tour. They don't do that yet, but yes, we certainly can
It's
get
more pertinent to 8th graders because they're about to be applying for one of those programs. MATA, Monroe, is usually for the kids who are going to be a junior or senior in high school. There's maybe one program that's for sophomores, so it's not necessarily as immediately relevant for the middle schoolers, but we always try to introduce it to them early so they can know, yes, college is, we always want them to continue their education if that's in the cards for them, if that's a good plan for them, but the MATA and all the other programs are great to expose them to as well.
And the information sessions for the academies, Ms. Polk sent that out a couple weeks ago, probably. So they have them all over the county currently and throughout the fall if you're interested in just learning about them.
And just to piggyback on that, I mean, in 8th grade is when the high school counselors come over, they do a big touch on that too. But we do a little bit with it every year. And when the kids, when I say too, we do what Ms. Harper said, the career and college search. Even when we do college search in 8th grade, there will be different programs that come up for those different interests, and it doesn't mean it's actually a four-year college, but it gives students just different pathways and different opportunities. So we do try to put everything out there, and we agree not everybody has that same path, and sometimes it looks like it's pushed that way, but we want the students to know there are many, many ways to go.
So to bounce back on the college thing, I come from a little country bumpkin town where college isn't necessarily something that even half of the kids might do. So here, I think the forward thinking, and maybe you can't afford it, or maybe your parents aren't saying, hey, you should go to college. So it's not necessarily just college, but it's forward thinking. Maybe you want to go to four-year, maybe you want to be a master at something, or maybe you want to be a welder or whatever. It's forward thinking. So even if their parents at home are not thinking about it, maybe they don't have the money or whatever. It's just, we're here to support you if this is what you want to do.
Thank you. I just thought it just looked odd that the 6th grade was planning a field trip on Halloween.
Yeah, that day was just talk to him.
I mean, it's just a little weird that it looked like, just to me, I don't know anybody else, but that you're planning a field trip on Halloween to the...
So the backdrop of this, planning a field trip is very difficult. When you're working with multiple schools, multiple classrooms, planning a field trip within a year. Okay. So it sounds weird which is not going to be the 31st now, because that did not work out. Our plan was to take everyone, and so that would include 9 buses. That's hard to do, and so they give us windows, and so we're now planning on splitting that trip into 2. So we have 2-day trips. So that would be coming, but we're not doing the 31st Halloween.
So you mean like everybody in the 6th grade or everybody in the school?
Just 6th grade.
Oh, okay.
So we're not doing Halloween. I did like the Halloween date though, but we're not doing it. We can talk about that later, but I like the Halloween date. You have to come to school the next day either way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not make it a fun day out in DC? That's what I thought.
So is this during the school hours?
Yeah.
So field trip will be during the school hours. We do have some dates that we're trying to firm up now, but I will say that we will split it up into 2 different days. So we take half the group on one day and another half on the next day. And we will be asking for parent chaperones for 6th grade parents. So please let us know if you will get that information out.
So I just tap on the scheduling. I noticed a couple of the assemblies were the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week, and that's only a 3-day week. So I'm just curious
If that was the day we could get.
That's
the day we could get.
suspecting.
So if you're leaving early that week, they will miss it. But we're hoping.
Is this something that's going to be captured that the kids who aren't here could watch virtually, so that everyone gets the benefit of seeing those presentations?
Yeah, I think it's up to the company. I don't know if they will give. I don't think they'll give us the rights to post that like on our website. But there will be some follow-up activities. I will ask though. I will ask if there's some. They have a website and you can see pieces of it, and they may be able to allow us to do that.
They look like really good presentations. It's something that all should have.
Yes, I would love them all together. I'll check on that.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
I just want to say that I am thrilled with the communication home and with how you do a summary of who the teachers are, what they're working on that week, the study guides and the page letters, and that when the tests are coming up. I am just so impressed with that. I think that's awesome.
That's your dean.
And I just want to say that I've never seen anything like that. And I think it's awesome. So, good job.
That's giving me heartburn right now. So thank you for that, because we know it's valuable.
It is so valuable. It's giving my kids heartburn because I'm all in their stuff. And I think it's awesome. They're like, well, we didn't even learn that yet. Stop telling me to study. And so I'm teaching them about being proactive, which they absolutely hate, but that's good. Thank you for doing that.
So thank you for your feedback.
I love it. Thank you.
This is our first year doing this, and so we want that feedback.
Yeah.
It is a lot to undertake, a lot on the front end, but we're now.
I just want you to know some smart middle parents are totally jealous. So keep up good work and thank you.
Thank you for the feedback. Great.
Yeah, before we finish up, I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming. I wanted to also introduce Mary Beth Woodford. She's been here for a very long time. As a parent, worked in bunch of different roles, and we can't thank you enough for coming with us to see us today. I wanted to respond to the question as far as the planning for college. I do have a little bit of perspective because I've been in the high school for about 12 years, or I think it's 14 years, whatever it is. So this is my first experience coming down to the middle school. The counseling piece used to be a 4-year plan, and now it's a 6-year plan. let's say hypothetically a student really wants to get juiced up and is thinking about moving on to be some type of person that wants to master Spanish. You can't get into AP Spanish if you don't start Spanish a little bit earlier. These are just options. And you know what I always tell students is there's going to be jobs and careers that we don't even know about by the time they get into high school. So the story that I always tell is I went through college in the age when the internet was just kind of starting up. And always be careful about the groups that you're in, because I was in a small class of about 15 people, and I chose the wrong group because the group that I didn't choose had the guy that made YouTube. His name is Chad Hurley. He's from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, and I blew it. So I just wanted to share that with you, as there's such a dramatic change and exponential growth in college and career readiness that things will change. We just want to offer as many options to students as possible. And we have an unbelievable staff here to do that. The last thing that I'll say is that our 3 goals here this school year are climate and communication, so thank you for picking up on that. Personalized learning, which you're going to hear something, we're going to actually tape a video that's going to be sent out this Sunday that talks a little bit about personalized learning. And then the final one is really focusing in on math and students that maybe historically struggle from opportunity groups in math. Math is my background, so if you haven't heard me speak before, I'm a former math teacher, really passionate about math. Math is one of those gateways that if students struggle, it could lead in different areas, so we're going to do everything we can to help students be successful in the math realm. So, Ms. Woodford, did you have anything you wanted to share?
You summed it up very eloquently. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Does anybody want to go see the laser? Yes.